I absolutely loved the first Don't Breathe. For years, I've been waiting for a sequel to this movie. Finally, we have Don't Breathe 2. Is it worth it? Let's discuss. Don't Breathe 2 stars Stephen Lang, Madeline Grace, and is directed by Rollerskate. What's up, guys? It has been 5 long years since 2016's Don't Breathe. Surprised the hell out of me. Fede Alvarez directed that movie, and at the time I was already a big Fede Alvarez fan because he did Evil Dead, and he produced this one and wrote this one. So that's good news that at least he wrote it. It definitely has that Fede Alvarez stamp on it. And there were some nice surprises along the way, okay? So anyway, let's get into this non-spoiler review, and I will say, I'm going to be very careful because there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of stuff that's spoilery about this movie. Stuff that I don't want to tell you, but unfortunately that's the stuff that makes this movie, I think, really, really good. I'm not at, like, I just finished the movie. I'm not at great yet, but it's good. I'll say that right now. It's good, and I might have to do a full-on spoiler review just because there's so much to break open. Also, speaking of Don't Breathe, the first Don't Breathe in Memory Lane, I actually have a t-shirt that has my wife's book on it. This book was, I think 2 years ago, we were promoting this thing for Rollerskate Skinny. And you know what? Why not promote it one more time, right? It's my wife. And it's just cool to have a hardcover book like this, you know? And I remember she worked for years on this. So if you want to get a copy of this, a hard copy, which I much prefer the hard copy anyway, then there's an Amazon affiliate link in the info box. You can check it out. I think, though, if you want the digital version for your Kindle, I think that's free on Amazon still. So, but thank you all for the great feedback that we've received over these past couple of years for this book. A lot of times I'll just see people pop up in my DMs saying, hey, I read your wife's book. I really liked it. It's cool. I actually saw this guy that reviewed the book just recently. It was like 6 months ago, I think he reviewed it, and I was like, oh, wow, just a review for this book just popped up. Really cool. And he gave it a glowing review. I don't know the guy, but yeah, thank you so much for reviewing this book. I appreciate it. My wife appreciates it. So yeah, Rollerskate Skinny. Definitely check this book out if you haven't yet, okay? I mean that, okay? It's my wife, but it's a really good book. But anyway, back to the task at hand. Let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Again, this is supposed to be 5 years into the future, but it's actually 8 because our main character, the blind man, he has this, I'll just say, a daughter figure. If you've seen the first movie, which most of you watching this probably have seen the first movie, then you know what happened at the end of that movie, okay? And this was a guy that was trying to have a child because he was in the military. He lost a child in the past. His child and his wife had died. And so he wanted another child. That was pretty much one of the big things about that movie and the big twist in that movie, actually. So we know that he did not achieve that goal, okay? So going into this movie with that information, he has a daughter. So that's one of the spoilery things about this movie that I can't really go into this review, but he has devoted these last 8 years to that child, making sure that that child is safe, making sure that child is trained so that way they can take care of themselves. And of course, at this age, which I believe she's probably around 10, something like that in this movie, there's going to be a little friction there because she's got questions. You know, why won't you let me go outside? Why won't you let me go to school? Why am I homeschooled? Why are you being so protective of me? She's got a lot of these questions, okay? And it creates friction in the movie. So along come these baddies, I guess we'll call them. They are ex-military vets, and they come in, and at first you don't really know what they're doing. You don't know if these are just baddies for the sake of being baddies, kind of like what happened in the first movie, you know, with the 3 young people breaking into his house, breaking into the wrong house. We're wondering, is this going to be just a repeat type story of that? And what I can tell you is that it's not, okay? There's an aspect of that in here, but luckily this movie isn't a rehash of the first movie. Has a surprising last act that I think is very satisfying. There's still plenty of that great blind man action throughout this movie. He's still a fucking badass, okay? And that's what we want. But one thing I like about this character is that he is believable. He does get the shit kicked out of him quite a bit in this movie, actually. That was refreshing. That was realistic. And that made you feel more for him. Plus, this is a guy with some secrets, okay? Like I said, there's a lot that his daughter doesn't know in this movie. And that presents itself later. I guess the second half or the last act of this movie is the section that I can't really talk about too much, but what I will say is that I was quite surprised by the direction that it went. You find out a lot more about these guys that break into his house, and why are they trying to capture him and his daughter? Are they trying to kill them? There's a lot that you don't know at first, and a lot of that presents itself in the last act of the movie, and it makes a lot of sense. And more importantly, it's just very satisfying. And as you could probably guess, the daughter factors into that. And keep in mind, not talking spoilers, but keep in mind, the blind man, like I said, he's got some secrets. So just imagine there's things that he does not want to get out about his past to his daughter. That's all I'm going to say. And that creates for some great tension in the last act. Now, as far as any cons, it does start off kind of sluggish in the acting department. At first, these villains felt very generic and the acting did not help. Luckily, the acting gets better along the way. But the blind man, Stephen Lang is great. He is so dedicated and into this role. You can tell that he takes this role very seriously. And he's just as good in this movie as he was in the first Don't Breathe, luckily. Also, his daughter, Phoenix, played by Madeline Grace, a good performance, okay? I'm not going to say she's wowzers, but she's a really good performance, for sure. And more importantly, I was really rooting for her, I liked this character quite a bit. And remember the dog in the first movie? I'm just going to say, without going into any spoilers, I love the dog moments in this movie, okay? That's all I'm going to say. You will too. I guarantee it. Guys, in the end, I definitely was surprised by this movie. I went in very skeptical because of the time frame that it's been. The trailer didn't blow me away, if I'm being honest. I was in, but I didn't think that this was going to be nearly as good as the first movie. I'm still trying to figure out if I like this as much as the first movie. I adore the first movie. I think this might be just a notch, just a little notch below it. But there's some great stuff that happens throughout this movie. A lot of great surprising stuff. And like I said, I might have to do a spoiler review. I went with my buddy Rico. Big shout out to Rico, who's awesome. And you've seen Rico in some of my Spooky Empire videos, but he's my bro. He's my brother from another mother, my military brother. And he loved this movie, and he had never seen the first movie. And he loved it so much that he wanted to go back and watch the first movie. So there's a clue for some of you guys that might not have seen the first movie. You might be able to just go right into this movie and enjoy it. So I'm giving it a purchase worthy for sure, though. I really enjoyed it, and I might love it. Oh, and I'm literally looking at my Facebook right now, and shout out to Jason Miller and Ashley Morrow. They're having a date night, and they're going to see Don't Breathe 2. So I literally just typed, it was great, just finished recording my review. So Jason, Ashley, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And by the way, just to toot my own horn a little bit, I'm going to my first press screening next week. That's big news for me. That's been a goal of mine ever since I started this channel. It wasn't at first, but then eventually I was like, hey, if I'm taking this thing seriously, I wouldn't mind going to press screenings. And then one of my subscribers on Facebook, Anthony Brian Hurley, sent me a picture. He was perusing through Vudu, and he was going to rent Halloween 6. And lo and behold, my Rotten Tomatoes little blurb was there on Vudu, and that blew my freaking mind. I always said, if I'm going to be a Rotten Tomatoes critic, then I'm going to try to bump up those ratings for the Halloween movies that I love, and I did that for Halloween 6, just a little bit. So anyway, guys, support me on Patreon, buy me a coffee. Thank you for watching. Drumdum out.